Hey, tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I didn't forget.
Okay, we are on.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Harwich Finance Committee meeting. It is Thursday, February 13th, 2025. It's 6 p.m. By the way, for those of you that don't remember, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so you still have time to get out there and satisfy your obligations, so you should get that done. This meeting is being recorded. Anybody in the audience, who is going to record as well, please check in with the chair. The chair will note there's no one in the audience as far as the public goes this evening, at least not at this time. So we'll call the meeting to order. I will declare there is a quorum. Here in Town Hall, we have Mark Amarez, we have Mark Keller, we have Bob McCready, we have Scott Norum, and we have Michelle Gallucci, and myself, Peter Hughes. I'm expecting Dana to call in from Florida, but we'll see how that goes on. So we do have a quorum. This evening, the feature of our meeting this evening is the presentation of the Cape Cod Technical High School FY26 budget, and we're pleased to have Dr. Sanborn with us this evening. Does a great job. We were chatting before this meeting as to how long he's been doing this job, which has been a long time, and congratulating him on getting all the parties together to get that new school built. So with that, we'll turn it over to you, please.
Sure. Everybody has this, so I'll just go right through that if that works.
Yeah, did you find it?
I haven't yet. And if you don't have line item budgets, I do have them here, but I think they were forwarded along. So I'm just going to go to the second page for now. In April, my business administrator, Aaron Orcutt, starts the budget process with the staff at the school. And then in October, we present our original budget, our draft budget in October to this finance subcommittee comprised of Mr. Tullio, Mr. Michaud, and Mr. Galazzi. So we finished our work in January, did a presentation similar to this to the school committee last month, and then they will vote this budget at the end of this month. We'll have a public hearing in our school committee. So I want to thank them and Aaron Orcutt for all their work. So enrollment, next couple slides are about enrollment at the school. We are up 19 students. In Harwich, we're down 4, you will note. I think we're in pretty good shape with regards to an increase for the town of Harwich this year because of that decline in students.
What would be your capacity at the school, student-wise?
So the building was built for 650. We're at 682. When they say 650, they think 85% utilization. So there is some room, and we have well over 100 student waiting list right now. So we are exploring the ability to 374 Main Street. You may be aware that we're looking to start 2 new programs over there. We're just in the infancy of getting that going.
And the number of students related to how much space there is in each program, as opposed to a total number?
Yes. Sometimes it's a student-teacher ratio issue. Sometimes it's a square footage issue of the particular space. And then the amount of teachers, which is related to the ratio. So you see, if you flip the next pie chart, you just see that Barnstable is nearly a third, approaching 30% of our enrollment, I should say. And then followed by Yarmouth, and Harwich is at just under 11% of our overall enrollment. So Harwich is one of the larger contributors of students to our school. And then you see the history, and I think it coincides with a couple of things. From 21 through 26, you'll see we went from 616 students up to today's 681 this year's. And with regards to Harwich, we are definitely up from 21 as a percentage of the overall. But this particular year, from 25 to 26, you did decline about a percentage point in overall enrollment at the school from the town of Harwich. So that's the history of enrollment. So the budget I'm presenting this evening, it's been a difficult budget year. I think you've heard that probably from many people. And so the slide that I have here is a 5.68% budget increase of $993,000 over last year. If you look to the right, from FY19 through 26, I think we've usually been a good stewards of the taxpayers' money and been able to keep us in the under 2%, and in the last couple of years, 4%, but now we're at 5.6. I think this is, I'm hoping that this is going to be a high watermark, and we will start to see that recede. But several things I'll get into that contributed to that increase. Some of them you probably already know. So first, what funds this budget? Primarily, it's the 12 towns, and that's the $13,918,000 you see there. The state, I'm fond of saying that the Chapter 70 and Chapter 71 don't get over the bridge very far, so or don't find their way over the bridge. So we have an increase. We got minimum aid this year, or forecasted to get minimum aid this year from the state, and that's $4,278,000 that you see there. And we have local revenue, which we've had to really cut back on our E&D contribution this particular year. The excess and deficiency, you're familiar with that with the Monomoy Regional School. It's kind of like the town's free cash. Right. And if you look at the overall budget, in 23 we contributed $600,000, and also in 24, and then at $750 last year. But we have to curtail that for financial management purposes, and we've cut it down to $150. So that's having an impact on assessments overall for the district. So that's something to keep in mind, and that totals $270. The $270 also comes from interest income and also monies we make on renting our facility. Okay?
Should we hold questions to the end? Or?
You can stop me anytime.
On a pure pupil basis, how do you look in terms of state aid versus other schools, municipalities, or charter schools, or what have you?
We're towards the low end per pupil because of the where we are. The property wealth down here, the formula really takes into account that they really look at property wealth. They look at per capita income too, where we're in the middle to bottom. But the influence of property wealth makes it that we don't get a large percentage of state aid as opposed to say a Western Mass town, inner city type town, where they're probably getting 90% of their budget in state aid. We're getting just around 20% of our budget.
So you're in line with other Cape Cod?
I would say so.
Yeah,
Okay, definitely.
So it's a geographic.
If you go towards the bridge, they get a little more. Like
Yeah.
Upper Cape, who's a school just like very similar to us.
Yeah.
They're right up on that perch there by the bridge. They get significantly more than we do. Now, they also have more students now, but it's also, even when we were comparable in enrollment, they did receive more funds.
And do you get money for facilities, or do you?
No, we had that huge influx of money for building the new school through the Mass School Building Authority, but not on an annual basis do we get it. The only for the facility, the only is the last four items on our line item budget. Building improvement, primarily building improvement, is monies that we use to upkeep the building, and we also have a building stabilization fund when we can move money into there for things that are going to happen. And then our excess and deficiency fund that I referenced earlier, we got to build that back up after. We wanted to be mindful of assessments in the early years of the debt, because the debt was relatively significant and it's declining now. So we defrayed the costs, like those increases in assessments or in budgets that I showed in the history. In many cases, the assessments even went up less because we were subsidizing it with excess and deficiency money. But we're not able to do that to the degree we used to be able to.
So what is the balance in that E&D fund now?
It's about $544,000 right now, and we really could be up to $1.2 million. In retrospect, I probably wouldn't have devoted as much over the last 3 years as we did in looking back, because at the same time we were getting 3 or 4 years ago we were getting a few bumps in state aid through the Student Opportunity Act, but that has kind of stopped, and we're getting minimum aid again. So. So we're working to build that back up.
Where are you trying to get to, Bob?
Well, we can get to 1.2, and the reason it's that high is because we also have the debt, the capital number as well, you see on the bottom, so it does allow for about 1,201,000 that we could have in there, but we're at, as I said, we're about 544 right now. The next slide is just a history of the operating budget and those categories I've just discussed, this slide here, okay? And then the bottom has what we are for this budget. It's an $18,467,000 budget, and I've already gone over the three revenue sources. So now we're going to move from, well, the last slide is just a graphic representation of the previous table. So going on to what is the money used for, you'll see that I have multiple categories, pretty traditional categories for educational enterprises. So the biggest number being teacher salaries is 35% of the overall budget. But of course, there's a multitude of salaries throughout some of these pie shapes, like building leadership, district-wide supervision, and administration. So, and then also in support services, for example, the guidance counselor salaries are in that category. But the teacher salaries are 35%, and followed by insurance benefits, which I don't think is any surprise.
Are you in line with, or are you part of the Cape Wide group on the insurance?
We are, yeah, Cape Cod Municipal Health
Yeah,
Group.
we were told that number came down, at least our administrator thought it was going to be like 10%, it's now down to 6.5.
Yeah, at one point we were carrying 12, we're now, I think it's 7.
Okay.
We got it at 7. So, and then that pie chart up above is also the same as the table below on the next slide, which adds up to the total budget, but you'll see, I think one thing pointing out that is true with Monomoy too, but we have $878,000 in retiree benefits that we have to hold in this budget. That's people who are not working in our building anymore, and there's actually double the amount of retirees now than active employees. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get towards the end.
Are they part of Mass Teachers Retirement?
The teachers are part of Mass Teachers.
Teachers are.
Correct.
So the retiree benefits are for who?
So the retiree benefits are like health, dental, and life insurance for people who have retired from our school.
What we call
Mass
OPEB,
Pardon me?
OPEB, other post-employment benefits.
Yeah, I'm going to discuss that towards the end.
Okay.
But yeah, that is the great majority of the OPEB obligation.
Yeah.
And we are working on a strategy to address that.
But that includes teachers too, right?
That does include teachers. It includes people in Barnstable County as well, people who are custodians, people who are aides, paraprofessionals, as I said that one, there's one, maintenance and grounds too.
But why does it include teachers if teachers get their benefits through MTRS?
They get their pension through MTRS,
Yeah.
but they do not get their, at least with Cape Cod Tech.
Yeah.
There are some that go to the GIC plan up at the state, but that's not the case at our school. So the retiree benefits are still coming from us in a 65-35 split
I see.
in most of it. Okay, so that's the cost of those benefits. Then retirement up above is the assessment from Barnstable County. Because Barnstable County is not fully funded, so they charge an assessment to all municipalities and regional school districts, and that's the current assessment for this year.
Bob, do administrators, are they paid through MTRS or? are
Yes,
you
yeah,
are? Okay.
yes, guidance counselors, any licensed, educationally licensed person will be in Mass Teachers Retirement. Okay, so that's what the money is being used for. And if you go to the next slide, we're kind of collapsing it a bit. To salaries and benefits, and materials and services, as you can see. And one thing you're going to see is salaries went down by a very fractional amount as an overall portion of the budget for 26. Benefits went down as well, but you're going to see when I talk about it, but we've decreased the amount we're contributing to OPEB, and that comes under benefits, and it's a significant decrease this fiscal year because of the challenges we face. So we said that's not something that directly impacts students, so we wanted to, and we were ahead of schedule on our plan to fully fund OPEB.
Yeah.
So, and I'll talk about that a little more specifically, but that's why the benefits decrease. Don't read that as like health insurance decrease, because it went up by 7%, but we made a large decrease in OPEB, and it's in that category of benefits.
How many bargaining units do you have at the school?
We have 4, plus I have non-union, which is not a bargaining unit, but.
Yeah, what's the status of the contracts?
So the contracts are all negotiated through 27.
Okay.
And they took a lot of different flavors this round.
Yeah, but your salary numbers are basically rock solid, less any
For the next 3
new
years.
people brought on or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Material and services, many of our systems in our building now are out of warranty, so they have service contracts on them. So those costs are starting to hit the budget. That's why there's an increase there. Transportation, we will be starting a new 5-year contract with Cape Destinations, and there was about a 19% increase. And we're absorbing that all in the 26 budget. So it'll be a fixed contract going forward. So that's a big contributor to the increase, transportation.
Fuel costs are down, and
Yep.
but still the overall cost is going up.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The bus driver, the competition for bus drivers in particular, where labor is a big part of that the equation, and the cost of buses, and upkeep and maintenance and things of that nature significantly going up, to parts, what have you. So, yeah, that's a bit.
I've heard of some grants for electric buses.
We're dipping our toe in that. So, the Cape Destinations got a grant, and I think that's why we didn't see as big an increase as we could have. It's a calculated risk, because you may have heard issues with electric vehicles at different times. So they do have backup diesel when there's an issue. So that's why even though 19% is a big contributor to this budget as an increase, it would have been higher without entertaining the electric buses.
So you're actually utilizing electric buses?
Next year we will be, well, if they get them delivered. If they don't, they'll be going with their diesels until they get delivered. And they're also going to have a charging infrastructure up in our bus, because we have a bus parking lot.
Yeah.
And that'll be
Perfect place
up there.
for it.
Yeah.
But you say that new figure for transportation is nominally fixed for 5 years now? at
After that number
1069?
will be very similar going forward
Okay.
for the next 5 years,
Right.
including this year. Not 25, 26 for this budget. Yeah, some people let it rise like incrementally. We've always done a fixed 5-year contract, but
Just bite the bullet in 1 year.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it flat.
So, and then insurances, we're getting hit pretty hard with property and liability in particular, which I think we're seeing that in our residences too, but it's the same. CAT ratings, I forget what that means, what that stands for, but it's wind primarily. We've got a place up there that's built pretty solidly, but we're still getting hit with property and liability increases. So that's contributing to the increase as well. And then if you go down to the next slide, which is the cost category history, we're collapsing it a little. You're actually seeing those increases I just discussed. So like in benefits, the decrease, salaries are up 5.46% overall, but it's below the overall budget increase of 5.68. But insurance, as you see, 35% increase. Now, some of that was an under budgeting of the previous year, that we did have a deficit in insurances in '25, but a lot of that is the increase we're experiencing.
So when you moved to the new school, different footprint, different size, all that, but did you see a reduction, maybe not in cost of energy usage, but in what you were using? Like
Yes.
kilowatt hours and BTUs?
Well, I
and
shouldn't say
those-
yes. Heating, yes.
Yeah.
Electricity, no. And the reason for that is there's a lot of requirements for systems, especially HVAC systems,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
run more and more.
Yeah.
And then air conditioning as well. So in the summer, so electricity higher, and fuel is lower. And we're on natural gas.
Yeah.
School. Okay, so, and then the last slide of expenses is just folding it up a little more, where salaries and benefits account for 78% of the budget overall, when you take all benefits and salaries. And you see materials and services, and that actually went down. Salaries and benefits is overall portion, and materials and services up significantly as a portion of the budget. And the other two, we did make some cuts to our capital budget because we're still in the early years of our building. So we felt in this particular year we would take a little chunk out of that as well. So that's the 26 budget. Yeah, I'm just going to go into the capital budget and then the assessments and a little bit about OPEB, which I've kind of alluded to already. So the capital debt, we're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years into our debt schedule already on this school.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
We're finishing our 5th school year, or into our 6th school year, I should say. No, that's not right. We're in our 5th school year because we got into the building in September of 20, which is the 21 school year. So, and you see that the overall capital debt is $5 million this year. You see the declining debt schedule I talked about earlier, and this will be over in 2039. So that's that slide. And if you go to the next page, the 26 capital debt assessment for the town of Harwich, you see it adds up to that total I said, but for Harwich it's about 10%. Well, it is because it's 10.6. I think we saw that was the enrollment,
Yeah.
and this is totally enrollment based.
Yeah.
So it's 587,691, and then if you switch
That
to
gets adjusted every year based on the enrollment?
on the enrollment,
Yeah.
yep. And then the operating assessment you'll see for the town of Harwich is 1,528,927. I don't have the figure that's down, but I'm assuming that's down a titch at least because of the decline in enrollment. There's other factors that go into this one. It's not a straight enrollment calculation, but yes, sir.
So mainly it's enrollment for operating as well, and it's the most recent actual, like for 24?
No, it's a little different for operating. So we have a budget of $18,467,000. We get state aid, and we get a required minimum contribution.
Looking at this.
Municipal contribution that comes from the state, and that's they talk about the formula. That's the formula at work. It's pretty close to the same for most of the towns here on the Cape. They don't get much state aid, so. But it does look at median income, and the further when you go to Provincetown, it's higher, and property wealth the same. It averages around 21,000 per student for the assessment.
And that depends on, that's based on where the students come from, not the fact that the school is in Harwich, right? The different minimum contributions from different towns?
Yes, yeah. Definitely. So, and you see the total is $13,909,000. Make sure that's right. I think it's actually about 9,000 more. That's okay. And then the next page is just combining the two numbers. And the final slide is the OPEB slide. And it's just the most recent actuarial look at our OPEB liability. It's $17 million. Everybody see that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we have a balance in our OPEB trust, which we started in 2015 with the Plymouth OPEB Trust. We've had a lot of good experience with that OPEB trust. Another reason why we felt we could, because of investment returns. Of the money that sits in there. So we're 2 years ahead of our 28-year schedule to fund this liability. So there is an error on here. We are funding, I think, at a $90,000 level, not $75,000 level ultimately. But that's significantly below the $300,000 we were going to be doing this year in a normal year. But this is where I made that significant cut.
Okay, so just to be clear, OPEB reserve, when it's sitting there, you're actually gaining investment returns on that, and it stays with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The only thing we can do, and we've never done it, and don't foresee us doing it, is you can charge health insurance, retirees' health insurance to this line if you needed to.
Yeah.
But we don't. That's not the goal of this is to keep it in a fund so that it fully funds this. You see right now, I think we're at 18% of the overall liability. We've funded 18% of the overall liability right now. Okay?
Quick question,
Yeah.
is the Plymouth County OPEB trust a lot better deal than the Barnstable County OPEB trust?
I'm not familiar with the Barnstable County OPEB.
Okay, because that's what all Monmouth uses, the towns use it.
Do they have their own OPEB trust? I don't know if they do.
I don't know.
Don't they use Barnstable County?
I don't know, the reason I was asking about the return on investment, whether you leave it there, roll it there or not, is I'm under the impression that we don't, that we take that as investment income, and then if we have money left, we throw money back in it, but I'm not sure about that, so.
Yeah, this money sits, it's,
Yeah, anything you earn stays in there and
yes,
compounds.
yes,
Yeah.
yep. So that's my formal remarks.
Oh, good, we're at the last page, good. Oh, so, okay, so,
Do you all have this, the line item budget as well? I think it was sent along. It has every line item in the budget, so.
I don't think so,
Do
but
you
you,
have copies?
Yeah.
yeah, okay, good.
Is it 10 pages?
10 pages,
Yeah, 10 pages.
We got it.
You do?
We have it?
Here's a copy for you.
I'll take it. You want a copy?
Yes, please.
Here, take them all. I'll leave
I'll
one.
just take one.
I'm gonna leave one for Jill. There we go.
And I'll take one too.
So in our case, the total number is coming down this year, right?
Right,
Because of the enrollment, there must be some towns that are kind of having a hard time with it this year, I'm guessing.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a 20-something% increase in their assessment this year.
wow.
Yeah. The overall increase in assessments this year, because of our decrease at E&D contribution and the size of the budget increase, is 9% overall. So, yeah, your mileage may vary.
Yeah, no, I don't, no, I understand.
Thank you.
And it's also, I think, still true that technical education is more expensive per pupil than
Yeah.
standard, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know, having to do with the different things you have to do in the programs you're offering.
right. We're running kind of two schools at once in some ways.
Yeah.
And one of those schools is significantly more expensive than the other. You know, staffing, equipment, upkeep of that equipment, just the square footage alone of those spaces and things that can break
Yep.
is significantly more than a classroom with desks and chairs. So,
Can you share with us maybe the top 5 most popular programs you have? Just-
yeah. This year, the number one popular program was marine mechanics, marine service technology. But routinely, all the constructions are very popular. That's your HVAC, plumbing, electrical, carpentry to a little lesser extent, but still popular. And then the health offerings are very popular, especially health technologies. Trying to think, I think
You have an engineering component?
we have engineering. Actually, engineering had a very good year this year. We've brought on a new staff member, and it's been a really improvement in excitement about the school. And we had a lot of success in VEX robotics competitions through that engineering program, and so that's going quite well. Yeah, and we have DVC, design and visual communications, information technologies, dental assisting, just to remind you, cosmetology, culinary arts. Currently, the restaurant's open Thursdays and Fridays if you want to come over. And we've got,
What time?
I believe it's 11. I would call ahead,
Yeah.
call the main office, and they'll know whether it's open or not, because they're sometimes off on a field trip or something like that. But we're really excited about where the culinary program's going. We had some bumps in the road over a couple of years, but we've got some really good staff members, and the kids are starting to gravitate towards it.
Now, do you see a trend where students that graduate from that program in particular may go on to Johnson & Wales or something and continue their education, and
Yeah,
just like your engineering kids going on to,
Yep.
you know, a degree
and health
program or
tech going to nursing school.
something? Yeah,
And then there's some technical schools that are good for like automotive, where you can go get further training in, say, diesel or things of that nature. New England Tech, that's over in
Yep.
Rhode Island,
Yep.
another type of school that our students will gravitate. You know, I'm maybe 3 or 4 kids a year will go there. Yeah,
I'm guessing almost all your construction people get taken up if they want to work.
we have 135 kids out on co-op right now. And last year we had over 150, so so you start with the seniors, they can go out right away. And that's for 2 weeks of the month, they can go out, earn money, working in the
Right.
trades.
Right.
And then now the juniors can go out, so it's going to be, we're hoping to hit 150 again, because
What's your head count for the upcoming, last year was 193, what's it gonna be for 26? If you don't know it, you can.
what do you mean by?
Well, between teachers and support staff.
Oh,
66
employees.
Employees. Last
Employees.
year you had 66 teachers and 127, or maybe it was 127.
It was 127 total.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
around the same thing?
Yeah, there are 2 decreases in, there's 2 aides have been removed from this budget. You'll see
Okay.
the physical education aide and an IT aide have been removed from this budget. Those are the only personnel changes.
And Kevin Considine, the chief, said he's worked out with you the reimbursement formula
Yep.
for,
You'll see that's gone up threefold.
yeah,
Yep,
thank you for doing that.
you're welcome.
Just a general question, if I could. There's going to be some perhaps cuts in the Department of Education, and that affects your, correct me if I'm wrong, your idea, your special education funding through the state. Any anticipation of that, or?
I was anticipating cuts before that discussion. We have been experiencing cuts in the last couple of years. We are primarily, it's IDEA, which is special education, Perkins for our vocational programs, and then Title I for general ed and special ed as well, and students with disabilities, and those total probably $500,000. You see in the line item budget, there's a category, any grant funds that are, subsidizing a line, that's in that far right column, which will be coming from either Perkins. Primarily now, it's mostly Title I and special needs. So they've been going down. I don't know what the closing of, and I don't think it's going to be easy to close the Department of Education, and I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know if the money's just going to go down to the states, and so there is no decrease. I don't know yet.
While you're here, would you like to share with us the projects that you have going off-site? Or
Sure.
contemplating off-site?
Yeah, so the CPC's over there talking about a request we've made. I don't know if that's going to go through or not, but we've received 3 or 4 grants from the Clean Energy Center, from the Capital Skills Grant, which comes through the Executive Office of Education. These are all state grants. We had a $590,000, donation. So that's our fundraising to date, which is about a little over $2 million. We're trying to start a satellite campus at 374 Main Street in Harwich, and we are in an intermunicipal agreement with the town, or an intermunicipal lease. We have a building that has gone through schematic design that could go on that property, and then we have a lot of site work to do. We have some issues with the environmental affairs that we have to work out. If all that comes together and fundraising comes together, the goal right now is to have a freshman class in environmental technology and veterinary science come September 26th. But I can't afford it right now. So we're actively fundraising through grants and also through our foundation. We have a Cape Cod Tech Foundation that we formed several years ago, which does many things for our students, but they also have a capital as part of their mission. So that's where the 590 came in, and that's allowed me to entertain an architect and tie and bond for civil engineering. So we have a layout, but we need more funds, and I know that there's a grant coming in late spring, and if we were able to get that will get us a lot closer to what we need, but there's still a delta.
So if you fall short, let's say you're $1 million, I don't know what
Yeah.
number, $1 million short, you would still have the possibility to go out to your towns and ask them to support it, right?
I have tried not to do that.
I understand that, but I mean, as a last resort.
Right. As a community preservation, I did put in a $900,000 community preservation request. I don't want to be a prognosticator. I don't know how that's going to go. But other than that, which I don't think affects the tax rate, right? I've been trying, because of the new school, because we're still paying the debt on the old school, I'm trying to be committed. I'm committed to not doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the ongoing costs of the facility would be borne by the towns,
Sure.
but I don't want them to have to pay for another building.
Got it, Michelle.
Do you have someone in your foundation that's dedicated to fundraising, an FTE, or?
Yeah, it's really a two-person operation. We have an executive director and he has an assistant. So he's you
Oh,
know,
he's an FTE, dedicated.
he's not in the budget. It's a totally separate organization,
Yeah.
self-funded. So that has nothing to do with the budget I'm presenting here
Got
today.
it.
Right.
Mhm. Thank you.
Bob,
Sorry.
Monomoy has added 2 positions for ELL.
Yep.
You have that same situation at your school?
It's not in this budget, but I can see it happening because we had for us, a spike. Monomoy has a much larger population of ELL students than we do, but we went from, I think we have 21 ELL students now where we had maybe 10. So several came in the 9th grade, and we still don't have what the next, we close admissions on the 15th of February, which is tomorrow, or 2 days from now.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday, so basically Monday. But we don't know the composition of that, but I can't see it dropping. So I do see the need coming for more ELL supports.
Is that state mandated?
Yes and no. I mean, there's a lot of state mandates associated with, there's a whole testing regimen called Access, like the MCAS, but for language acquisition. So, and that takes people. In a big district, that's going to you're going to have English, science, history, and what am I miss? Math, ELL supports. We have one person right now. So we have all of our teachers are endorsed for SEL, they call it. We're going to need more staff members to handle that in a few years if it keeps going this way. Right now, we've got it under control.
Based on a number of subjects you say you need the support on, I take that to mean there's no opportunity to try and share between the high school here and your
really.
school. It's just you need too much of it.
And schedules almost never
Yeah.
align.
Yeah.
Never align. Yeah.
So,
How much COVID money did you get from the feds?
I want to say 900,000. COVID seems so long ago now.
Thankfully. And did you create any new positions
We
with
did.
that money? And are they still in
They're
the,
still in. There was about 1.5 per FTE in custodial maintenance, and they're still with us.
Right.
And we did take on another nurse.
about 2.5 FTEs?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to ask so many questions, but curious about your cell phone policy and how that ties in with adjustment counselors. Did you have to add adjustment counselors after the pandemic? And there's been some studies, many big school systems are banning cell phones during the day because they see improved academic performance. What are you guys up to?
So we allow it in the cafeteria, the hallways, to and from class, but there are places to put them in the class before they ever sit down. So is it perfect? No. Did we add adjustment counselor? No, we already had one, and that person remains. So it's an ongoing battle. They're addicted to these things. And sometimes the parents aren't help either. Sometimes the people calling the kid is the parent.
yeah.
In the classroom. But they have these caddies. I don't know if you've seen those.
I've heard about
Yeah,
them. Yeah, you put them in.
IT has a very special caddy that's more electronic. And it looks like a locker at an airport, but which we got through grant funds. So the idea is to have them out of their hands while they're in the classroom.
And I can comment, I know that, so for example, Sturgis this year has gone a step further, so now they've taken them away, even in the hallways,
Yeah.
because they found that they were delaying getting into their class and
Yeah.
sitting down and putting them away. So now it's just at lunch.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, I work at the charter school, and there's no phones, they come in the morning, they put them in a box,
Yep.
and they have no phones till they are leaving for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think people are getting a little bit tighter on that.
Every year, I think
Yeah.
it gets a little tighter. And some people have different philosophies too. You deal with that. You know, you've got a lot of people, a lot of different educators out there, and some use the phone to educate. Anyways, but they've got Chromebooks, so they don't really need that.
It's time for the return of payphones in the hallway.
They
And
wouldn't know what
bring
to
your
do.
dimes and quarters. No, they wouldn't know what it was, yeah. Okay, anything else? Well, once again, we thank you for a very comprehensive presentation. We always look forward to seeing yours because it's the most well-organized, trust me. And I think the most understandable.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
obviously, you're willing to, answer any questions we have. And,
Yeah, oh, definitely.
You know that Mark is our liaison to you folks, so
Yep.
if we have any follow-ups, we'll pass them
And I
to
think
Mark.
I'm going to be, is there a joint meeting on the 24th? So you might hear this again. I don't know. Is there a joint meeting on the 24th or not?
Probably not a joint meeting. We're having one next Tuesday with the selectmen.
Okay.
And I think they're having you in the week after maybe.
Right, yeah, the 24th. Okay.
Do you have to meet with all the towns?
No. The smaller towns, you saw some of the enrollments.
Reports,
They,
you send
yeah,
reports?
yeah. I go where they ask me to go.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Can I
Don't
borrow your
forget-
tie? I got a special thing to do.
Sure, here you go.
See you later.
Okay. All right, you got all that right? Okay, so now I want to focus a little bit on some meeting dates. Yep, go do it. Go do it. So you all know we're meeting next Tuesday, not Monday, because Monday's a holiday apparently.
Yep.
On this, the 18th at 6 o'clock with the Board of Selectmen. And so it's a joint meeting like we had the other night. I find the arrangements in there now hard, sitting out in the audience space, it's hard. And when someone else is gonna come and present their budget, like police or fire, it's gonna be like, kinda crazy, but we gotta deal with it.
I wonder if Joe could extend, so we could all sit at that main table.
I think that's what we should push for, but who knows?
Scott and I were discussing that. We weren't really clear on what the procedure was in terms of commenting or when we were supposed to comment, So maybe you could just fill us in on that.
I mean, for next week?
Well, I can't go next week, as
Yeah,
I
but I mean,
discussed, but
in
yes,
general
in
for that
that, in
meeting?
general.
I think I learned by being there.
But do we
about
wait
that.
to the end, or do we comment as we go, or, because you have your back to us?
Yeah, I can't see what's going
You
on
can't
back
see what's
there.
going
But
on,
yeah,
right?
we'd
So
like
who
fire,
do we
I don't
say,
know. I have no
excuse
idea.
me, I have a comment or a question?
I think what you find is that they tend to prefer that the presentation is made, and then they open it up for questions, so they'll ask their team. And then I would typically, when I can see you guys, ask my team. That's how we did it on the Saturday sessions in the past. And then sometimes, people have discussions and whatnot that go on, but it kind of goes that way.
Okay.
They want to make sure, excuse me, everybody gets a chance to say whatever they want to say. Okay? So if I understand it, and I didn't pull up the agenda with what was sent out, but it's police, fire, DPW, Board of Health, I think, IT, I believe, and then the OPED, not OPED, but the enhancing services people, like the health, what do they call it? What's the lady that sits over here in the Alpha House?
Oh, yeah.
That does
Oh,
counseling,
the
youth
Alpha
counseling,
House.
youth counseling,
Counseling,
youth
yeah.
counseling, yeah, that kind of stuff. People looking at a body or parts of a body will be there as well, okay? So it's probably gonna last a while. I mean, bring your pajamas, whatever. But we should get a lot of information and get through a lot of those things. And I would just say on both police and fire, it's not about, how many hoses they have and how many bullets they might have. It's more about what their authorized staffing level is. Are they, where are we in that? Heard some things, I don't know, a meeting or two ago from the police chief saying he only had like one position left open, he got the rest of them filled or something like that. And then how does that mix with overtime, which is always the thing, because even though you bring on a new hire, they have to go through academies and, you know, blah, 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 and it takes, I don't know, 6 months before they end up being a, you know, a regular
So it's,
employee, if you will.
it's difficult, at least for me. I don't know what the presentation is gonna be. I assume we're not getting it ahead of time from these individual departments.
It's gonna be that.
Because this, as Joe told us, is not yet really complete, because he's got this marker for salaries that he's holding in the administrative department.
So here's the way that goes.
Mhm.
He's got all union, or all bargaining units to negotiate with. He's got a placeholder of 2%, okay? For me, that's not the right number, but that's his thing at the moment. What I caution you with is, we're not gonna get any of this finalized until we have those numbers somewhere. May not get them until the week before town meeting. We may not even get them by town meeting, okay? Because if the bargaining units don't, you know, complete their negotiations and you don't have a contract, you don't have a contract. So we have to glean out, you know, where the big things are. And mainly it focuses on not what it costs us to have the bodies, but how many bodies there are, what are they doing, what their functions are, and that type of thing.
So we get that information from the department heads, and we trust that their headcount assumptions will eventually be translated into the budget.
Yep. Unless they have new positions. So if they have new positions, that's where you get into this enhancement of services, okay? And the decision has to be made. Now, in the past, way in the past, there was a policy of the Board of Selectmen when I was there that any new positions went on the ballot. So they went as a separate article, would be funded as an override, because you're bringing on new personnel. You gotta generate the cash to pay for them, ad infinitum, right? Because you own them once you bring them on, basically. That policy has been non-existent the last couple of years. So, for instance, I'm just making this up, when you look at the enhancement of services requests that are there, the selectmen might say, okay, we listened to all that, but we can only afford this one, okay? And then these get pushed aside. Then the question is there pushback to say, no, 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 we really need it, but we can't afford it? Are we gonna put it in an article and try and go out for it? So it's a discussion, it's a debate that, you know, that goes on. I will say that the department head should be the closest to understand their needs of personnel and what their plan is to operate their own department, how that goes. Like, for instance, I haven't heard anything about the assistant DPW director. I don't know what the need is. I mean, I haven't heard what the plan is, how they might split the organization up. I have no idea. We're gonna hopefully hear that on Monday, so it'll be new information to me.
But we haven't heard from Joe his recommendation, along with the select board, I suppose, as to which of those enhancements they recommend we go
What you have, when he puts out requests for
Those 8
folks to put their
requests or
budget, to put their budgets in, they do their budgets, there's the guidelines.
Right.
Some people follow,
Level
whatever.
service.
Yeah, whatever,
That's the
level
guideline,
service. Now, if you want above that, what do you need? And so at the moment, I assume, those are all the needs that came in.
So it's unfiltered so far? It's
Exactly.
everything?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, so that's just how it one works. So next week, I know you're not available. I just want to make sure, is everybody else available?
Yep.
I'm available, yeah.
You are?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure of that. All right, then moving on February 27th, which is a Thursday, at 5 o'clock, we had the Monomoy schools coming to see us at 5 o'clock. Then at 6 o'clock, we're going to hold our advertised public hearing on the budget. Okay? And I think you guys were here last year for that. Nobody shows up, right?
Yeah.
Joe might show up, I don't know. But it's basically a summary, you know. And if he doesn't show up, I'll give one based on the information we have at that point in time. It's an obligation for us, according to the charter, to do it at least once. So we're supposed to get the budget to us, official budget, on the 24th, which is a Monday. we'll hold the hearing to get it behind us, quite frankly, on the 27th.
And what exactly do we do in that hearing, especially if absolutely no one shows up?
Well, for the public who could be watching
Right.
and recording and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, we go through and journalize what the budget is.
okay.
Okay. Once in a while, I think last year we had one lady that came and sat in the back. She lasted for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something and left, well, whatever. Usually doesn't take more than half an hour. So
Mhm.
that's why I thought we could do both of those
Right.
that night. And then on Thursday, March 6th, I've been probing the water, wastewater people because I assume we do need to hear from them, particularly on their capital projects and all that kind of stuff. So I've been working with Noreen Donahue, who's one of the water commissioners, working with the water, wastewater superintendent on what they could do and what they could accommodate. And Thursday, March 6th at 5 o'clock seems to be what works for them. So I'm going to schedule,
Is there a wastewater superintendent now?
the
Dan
water
Pelletier's
waste.
been replaced?
Yeah.
Who is it?
Forget.
Okay.
Maybe you'll meet him
Yeah,
or her.
yeah.
And just to ask a dumb question, perhaps, why is that important for us to meet the water, wastewater folks?
Because they're
Because
one
of
of
the sewer
they're one of the
projects?
they're one of the larger budgets.
Mhm.
They run the enterprise fund, that's how they run,
Right, the water,
okay, which is, we need to understand that, and they're gonna have certain debt because they're doing the biggest construction stuff in the town.
so they get water fees from people who are hooked up to the,
Yeah, you pay a water bill, right?
no,
You have a well.
yeah.
You don't count.
I buy a well every 20 years.
Okay, whatever, but, you know, some of us run water.
Right,
And you have people hooking up to the sewer,
Yeah.
which is a totally different story, you know. So we'll hear from them.
The superintendent might be Jason Trepanier.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. yeah.
What is it, Jason, what?
Trepanier.
Beignet.
Trepanier.
It was
Thank
in the
you.
Chronicle on September 18th.
Okay, so I would ask Mark Keller to identify the room for that, because it is a little bit odd. It's the 6th of March at 5 PM. I don't know if this room is available, Matt,
His office is open now, Joe Powers, I'll get out and check right after this.
Okay, whatever, okay. And then on Thursday, March 13th would be our normal monthly meeting in March at 6 o'clock. We should get this room, right? So you want to get that one.
I think I already do, but yeah.
Okay, but to get that one. So what I would say is, and it's not clear to me when we're gonna get a warrant. Did you find a date in there for the warrant? You were looking before, okay.
No, there isn't one.
Okay, so what I'm guessing is, by the way, there's no sense having a huge discussion and any kind of votes on the budget until the thing is finalized. Because then we're just, so that can wait, you know, because we're gonna vote that as a big block, you know, sort of at the end. But what I do anticipate, potentially on Thursday, February 27th, if we have some warrant articles, once we're done with the public hearing, we could vote some of those if we want to. And then Tuesday, March 6th, after we did the water, wastewater stuff, that starts at 5 o'clock. I expect that'll be an hour. We can vote a lot of stuff that night, you know. And then Thursday, March 13th at 6, we can continue and hopefully get through it. So that way, after this week, you're only talking about a meeting kind of every week going forward. So not two meetings, you know, 2 nights in 1 week. So we'll see how we get through it.
Quick question on the public meeting. We haven't done it in the past, but in case we get people coming in or people tuning in on the remotely, should we have some paper copies of the budget? And I don't know, I wouldn't know how to do it. Could we have a copy of the budget that if people go in remotely, they could look at it? Just so, in case they're interested, they could.
Would we have a packet for that information?
Well, we have,
What is this?
we have what Joe presented now 2 weeks ago, I guess, his PowerPoint presentation.
Yep,
And the question is whether we want to take 4 slides out of that and use that, and maybe update them to use potentially as a presentation or a handout or whatever.
Yeah, as we get closer, let me know. I mean, I could copy up.
Yeah, what I would say is after next Tuesday's meeting, we should know a lot more on where they are with the budget and all that, and we'll hear a lot more stuff. And so immediately after that, maybe we'll task you, Mark, and say, hey, take and work 4 slides or something and summarize the budget. Now, having said that, what I would also like to do, we all have this list, this different departments and whatnot for the operating budget, this summarized sheet, this thing here, right? If there is, what I've come to learn, since I'm not doing a Saturday session, dragging everybody in here, if you find something on here or a department on here that you think we have a need to bring them in and have a discussion, then we'll try and schedule them for one of these nights, okay? But you gotta let me know, like, in the next, well, certainly by Monday, I think. And a lot of the things that are in here would come from the town administrator, for instance, like, if you look at the town engineer, there is none, right? We haven't hired one yet, but yet they got an expense thing that's gonna be
Quite a bit higher than it was.
quite a bit higher. Yeah, like they're gonna buy him a car and a house.
Yeah,
and-
even though we don't have.
Yeah, but I don't know
The
what-
expense going up by 100,000? Yeah.
Yeah, but that should be I'm actually gonna ask that question probably through Jeff, just to say, number one, do we have somebody, and number two, what is this? Is that subcontracting out engineering work? And we don't have an engineer, what are we doing? So,
I think one of the things that I noticed in looking at these budgets, it's very hard to know if it's reasonable because you don't know what the FTEs are. So like if you're looking at, for example, if you're looking at the treasury position, you don't know, and you see a line item, is that a treasurer and 2 support staff? Do you know what I'm saying?
The backup.
It's very hard to, the absolute number, not the change from one year to the next, but the absolute number. It's very hard to determine,
I would say that unless the salary and wages change by, 20% or more, that it's probably within the people you have. Because you add a person that, especially if it's a small department with 3 people or something, it's gonna jump up like
And
crazy.
doesn't the comprehensive financial report, which we now have for 2024, have an FTE chart in it? You could look at that, and we have a 24 column here.
Right,
which
because
is- Which is still, it's
Yeah.
labeled as voted, which is one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, but you
We
don't
never
do-
get any actuals, it's just voted, voted, voted.
You'd have to go through and populate it.
But I think the FTEs are in that financial report that was just put up on the select board website.
Just on one of our quieter meetings, just a suggestion, maybe see if we can get Joe here for administration. I'd like to ask him who writes grants now. If there's a, I know some of the departments are very good at it, but for a small department, do we have anybody who is tasked with writing grants? Just to see, I don't want to miss, quite honestly, that all the grants that are
My
out there.
recollection from a couple of years ago, just recollection, when Kara was brought on for the cultural affairs thing, that she was gonna be the grant writer for the town, but I don't, and what grants are out there, I can't tell you, I have no idea, it's not I don't work in that area. so.
I haven't, excuse me, I see like the fire department, but I haven't seen many other grant applications coming in. I just asked for, we don't want to miss anything. And if someone comes upon it, it is this kind of a specialized thing, and you're right, I thought the 204 system,
And maybe she's written 7 grants, I had no idea.
yeah.
I
So anyways,
don't
that'd be
know.
nice to find
Yeah,
out from
yeah,
Joe.
I don't know. Well, and he may be here for, what I would suggest is if he's here for the public hearing,
Oh, yeah.
he comes here, I've invited him, but if he, if he comes here, those are good questions from the board, that's our time to talk. We'll still be on camera, but not, in the other room, and it would be him answering, our questions.
So can I just, once again, I know I'm a broken record, but assessing the reasonableness of the 26 budget, when you don't even have the 24 actuals, or obviously we
We
don't
got
have.
the 24 actuals.
But this report says 24 voted, so.
Right, but we were given a munis report with the
You got
24
it.
actuals, yes.
You got it to do your work,
Yeah,
So,
And I think the actuals are in your spreadsheet that you put together and
Exactly
gave
right.
to all of us,
okay,
right?
and that
So-
also has the 26 budget
No, because it was done
before.
a month
that-
ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so the
right.
question is whether or not you
Yeah,
would be willing to go through and put the 26 budget request in.
which are into a version of that already, so yes.
So you could develop
So,
it.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because if somebody hasn't been spending their expense budget for 2 or 3 years and they're just asking for the same
Yeah.
amount
yeah.
again,
Yeah,
that would be an
exactly,
opportunity
exactly.
to
And,
ask
and,
if
you
they really
know,
need it.
every dollar counts as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, you know.
And the Munis system doesn't have all this data in one place that they could generate a report for us and
I
avoid
think,
all the data entry, or?
what I think is that, and I haven't worked with Munis, but I think the reports are based on how you structure the reports. In other words, you tell it what to spit
Yeah,
out. I'm
right.
sure the data is in there.
Yeah,
You just have to say, I want this column,
yeah,
along with these other columns and that column and
right,
everything else.
that's what I would think.
So somebody has to just set it up and push the
Mhm.
button and do it, and it runs. I mean, the
And then
data,
maybe even save it in Excel instead of PDF.
that'd be remarkable. But
So why can't we get that?
that would be remarkable. So that's another discussion for Monday. I mean, we're gonna be before the selectmen again on Monday, so,
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, I'm sorry, yeah, remind me. I'll show up on
Good
Monday.
question.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking Monday earlier this evening.
Okay, so,
All
so,
right.
so is everybody available on the 27th, that Thursday meeting with the schools? No. But you guys are, so can I
I
give,
believe so.
February.
okay, so we can have 5 people at least, especially for the public hearing part of it, which is 6.
Yep, for sure, 27th.
And then Thursday the 6th and Thursday the 13th.
It's a little foggy for me out that far right now.
Yeah, okay, all right,
At least remotely, for sure.
okay, all right. All right, and again, if you want to get some other folks in, let me know by Monday and we'll start working at it. And Mark, you'll set up whatever rooms you gotta
I'll
use.
check the rooms. I
Yeah.
think I got it covered, but I will check.
Oh, wait a second, may I? It's next week I can't make, the 27th I plan to make.
Okay,
I plan to make all 3 of those,
Okay.
just not next week.
yep, I
School
know.
break,
You go to New Hampshire. I know the feeling.
some skiing.
You good? Are you good?
Okay, so anything else on that topic? Under old business, we have the town operating budget. We've been yakking about it. I don't know if you have anything else. Again, this is a work in process, and it will take some time to get itself to the end. You know, with all this paper in the end, we either vote it up or down, or we vote some modification to it, you know, yeah.
Why does the finance committee show salary and wages?
Why, what?
Doesn't it?
$2,000, I think.
3,000. Why does it show that?
That's our clerk. That's our
Oh,
clerk.
that's our clerk.
Yeah, I have to sign off. She does our minutes. She's
Oh, yeah.
watching, not now, but
Little
tomorrow
overtime.
she'll have me minutes,
Oh,
whatever.
okay. I didn't know that.
She does the postings, you know, the
Julie or
meetings.
Judith?
Dude,
Judy.
Yeah.
Judy.
Judy Molstead,
Got
yeah.
it.
Not free.
Does a great job. Does them
Get her
pretty
emails.
fast and accurately.
Yep.
Emails, right?
And so just so you know, the process, the way it works, she submits a timesheet, right? So many hours for the week or month or whatever. It gets sent to me for approval. I have to sign it off, and then it goes back to payroll, and
I didn't know
that's how it
that.
works. Yeah? It's all good. But, having said that,
Just one last thing, Peter.
Yeah.
The Association of Town Finance Committee meetings is having a spring meeting, Reading, Mass. That's the closest one. The other one's in Hadley, 5 to 7 p.m. about having an official town meeting. So you may, if you probably should have got emails on it, but
I've seen it.
yeah, just in case you want to go.
Why so late at night?
It's probably for working people. It's in the eastern part of the state for people who live,
Mm.
there. So
So the other thing is, you know, the other night we had this discussion about 204. This is under the budget. Well, I'm talking about it now, because it does affect the budget. And I think I left that meeting a little bit frustrated because Pete Pekarsky was, okay, I want to see the numbers before you vote something. It's like, this should be a no-brainer that you're gonna, clean that thing up. And what should happen on the revenue side is all the revenue numbers for the year should be updated so that all of the rental income goes over there. And then on the expense side, and by the way, yeah, on the expense side, everything gets moved over except for a part-time, there's a number in there like $2,000 or something they spent last year, having to do with if I rent a room, or
Event,
say the
yeah.
gymnasium for an event, I have to have a staff or somebody there. So they gotta pay some minimum of 3 hours. That's the money that should be paid out of the revolving fund. In my opinion, the revolving fund balance, and that's why I was trying to make that point that they didn't seem to care about it, whether it's accurate or not, that balance needs to get swept out and taken over into the revenue side, which helps the whole thing. And then you start out with some number here, $20,000 as an authorized limit on the revolving fund over there. That's the way it should happen.
The revenue side doesn't go into that line item, the cultural affairs, doesn't it go into the general fund? Yeah.
No, right now, that all goes into the revolving fund.
Right, but it would go into the general fund and then
Yeah.
we'd see
So,
on the
so
expense
right
side,
now,
it-
in my opinion, because they're missing data on the expense side, the balance on that revolving fund is much higher than it should have been. But if we're gonna sweep it over into the general fund, I'm happy, just get it over there.
We get a one-time infusion into the general budget.
Yeah,
And then the expenses are shown right on the line item for the budget, the salary and the utilities. I mean, it's really quite simple.
it's just like the community center.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's just,
I was trying, during the meeting, I was trying to find,
and excuse me, but,
You heard at the meeting, it's going to be an ongoing.
oh my God, it sounds so complicated.
That's right.
But I can tell you on the expense side, that Jeff himself sent me the data for 2024, way back when we were doing a report. And the expenses, electric, gas, water, Comcast, Verizon, maintenance repairs, dumpster service, alarm system, elevator, sprinkler, general maintenance costs, custodial supplies, and part-time custodial, somebody cleans the building, right? So, it's pretty clear.
And the salary too, correct?
Huh?
With the salary for the,
Well, now, Joe was making a point
Yep.
that the way you accounted for it is, these things are expenses with the building, and Kara, whose cultural affairs would stay in the budget she's in.
okay.
So why it's so complicated, I don't know. And then, there's your revenue stream right there. And the top line happens to be the rentals, and $156,000 for the year, and it didn't vary. Lowest was 9,650, and the highest was 13,900, 14,000. And I'm sure some of that is some people pay for 3/4 of the year, or 3 months, or a month, or, they do all kind of stuff. So.
where do utility expenses show up for other departments like police and fire? And is it in their individual department budget, their electricity and their
Yeah,
heating
should
are
be, should
distributed
be,
into the
Should be.
individual
And
department?
what I don't know if you caught it, but Joe mentioned tonight, thinking about having a utility budget for the town, like every
Yeah, that would be
gas
another
bill
option,
here.
but
Yeah, there's another option.
Yeah, so there'd be a new department called Pool for Buildings, and that's where those expenses would show up.
That's what I would hope.
Relatively fixed
Yeah,
costs.
that's what I would hope.
Yep.
But it sounds like it's pretty difficult, right?
Especially if the salary's not gonna be in there, it's just so easy to do, just.
Oh, we have a revolving fund for Albert House. I mean,
Right.
come on.
It's very easy to do.
And then the revenue would be a new line on local receipts, I guess, going into the general budget, or?
Anyhow, details, right? Details. We don't want to micromanage. So, but the key point to me is, when Scott probed the folks at DOR about whether these expenses, it's not legitimate, what was the term, the appropriate?
Yeah,
Is
not
it
appropriate in
And
a
they said they're
revolving
not
fund.
appropriate. So, I mean, I don't care what the policy was they passed, the Department of Revenue is saying you shouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Maybe it was done at the beginning because people weren't sure if it was gonna be a stable.
I think it
Sort
was
of
done at the beginning
operation.
because they didn't know if they're gonna get any rents, they
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah,
So it
anything.
was fine at first, but now we've got
And now we got an
experience and
8-year
it's
history,
stable
an
and-
8-year history, and they should be transitioning
Mhm.
over this. But anyhow, let's see if it happens.
Yep.
We always have the option of amending the budget on town meeting floor if we want to, and then amending, if we want to, the article for revolving funds, so, you know, just out there. Okay, anything else for tonight? We did make the chronicle for our.
We did make it.
Yeah, no, we had to.
Yeah,
that?
and it'll be next week. It was one minor typo, but I got the
That's for the
correction
public
already
hearing, yeah. The complication is you have to be in the paper twice, and it's gotta be starting 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks before the public hearing, so that's why we had to scramble and get this figured out, so, anyhow. Okay, anything else? We are adjourned, and it is 7:10. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's the start of a fun season, right? Nobody said right.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Tell you when it's over.
Any update on, is that,
On what?
Dan?
I haven't seen or heard from Dan.
No?
No,
No.
we
Have you? No. Now, I can tell you, if we're off now, I can tell you that,
We are not off yet. Hang on just a second.
okay. We'll be good.